Welcome to today's meditation time. It is an honor to get to spend these few minutes with you as our day closes and our week begins before we know it. So let's just each get comfortable where we are in your space and in my space. And as you are, I would invite you to go ahead and close your eyes or bring your eyes down toward the ground in front of you. And just begin to notice how your body feels here in this moment. If there was any rushing that you had to do before you got here, stopping of the activity, whatever it looked like, just notice. How do you feel? Check in with your heartbeat. See if it's busy and fast, or see if it's a little sluggish. And so try to think about the breath as a way for you to regulate however the physical body feels right now. If you need more dynamic breath, then give yourself that. If you need calming, slow, full breath, give yourself that. And let's start our meditation time by just really being connected to us. It is a time of awareness, but it's not so much awareness of what's going on around us. It is this awareness that comes from internal, from the heart, from the spirit, from the soul. And so just commit that I want to be aware of how I feel and what's going on with me here in this moment. And I want to honor that. And so as we've each settled into our space, let's just start to breathe together. There's something about this collective sense of breath, this collective sense of unity, this life-giving force, even through the airways of Zoom. It has a way of bringing us together and making us realize that we are not on this journey alone, and we are part of a larger collective of people who want to be aware, who want to be at peace, and who truly want this internal awareness of who they are and what their purpose is. So together, let's take a nice, slow, deep breath in, and then gently let that go. Another slow breath in, and let it go. One more together, breath in, and a breath out. And then you can maintain that same rhythm, or you can switch to a rhythm that feels right for you. But for these few minutes that we have together, each of us in our space, but collectively on this journey as one, I'd like to just share with you the thoughts that have been on my mind these last few days, the inspiration that I've experienced, the lessons that I have learned. I tend to find a lot of lessons out in my garden. It's a time where I pause and I reflect, and I tend, and I weed, and I water, and I give care to whatever is needed. But the last couple of days, the spot in my garden that has offered me the lessons more than any other spot has been this gigantic compost bin that we have right next to the garden beds. So I would invite you where you are, just picture it. It is about 6 feet long by 4 feet wide, and it stands about 4 feet high, and it is full. And every day as I prepare food and we have things going on in our household, there's always a load that goes out to the compost bin, from fruits and vegetables to eggshells and coffee grounds to the kind of cardboard that can begin to just go through the process of becoming something new if we just let it have a little time. So just picture this big, giant space where after a bit of time, where insects and worms and sun and warmth and water have done their work, all those things we put into this compost bin become soil. And then the soil comes out and it goes into the garden bed, and then it grows the vegetables that we get to enjoy the next season. But something surprising happened in my compost bin the last few days. Usually I just walk by and tend and turn it over and don't really pay much attention to what's in there. But a couple days ago, a little head began to peek out from the top of it. And then that head began to open up into these big yellow petals. And all of a sudden, from the depths of this yuck and this trash, grew this amazing sunflower. And I stood there a few days ago and I just looked at it. So just imagine, if you can picture this compost bin with this one sole sunflower peeking up from all the yuckiness. And I remembered that several months ago I had thrown flowers in there after they had served their purpose. And I had two choices. I could put them in the trash can and they could fill up space in our landfill, ultimately impacting the future for you and me. Or I could put them in this compost bin and see if something new, if something could grow from this thing that could be seen as trash. And then all of a sudden there it was, this incredible sunflower growing out of something that I had discarded and thrown away. And for that moment, it gave me joy. Out from the depths of something I had thrown away came joy. And so I tell you that story in these moments that we have because the lesson that I took from that is I don't want to just have a compost bin in my backyard that creates the dirt, the soil for my garden. I want to have this figurative, this metaphorical compost bin inside my spirit. Because just like you, I have experienced things that have been traumatic and difficult and frustrating. I've experienced things that have made an imprint on my life and on my past. And I have two choices. I let those things just linger, thus filling up this metaphorical landfill of my life and eventually impacting my future. Or I can choose to put those things away into this compost bin of my spirit. And I can tend to myself, and I can care for myself, and I can practice just like we're doing here together until someday the stuff that was traumatic and difficult and really hard to go through now all of a sudden has a new purpose. It has growth. And maybe, like that sunflower, eventually it could be the source of joy. And I know that some of you are going through really dark times right now. Some of you have just come through dark times. And I don't say these things and offer this metaphor in a flippant or cavalier way. I offer it in a way of this profound lesson that was shared with me as I stood and looked at that flower this weekend. And I'd like to tell you that all these traumatic events that I've gone through, I was able to file them away and compost them and turn them into something good and healthy. But that's only been my practice for the last few years. I, just like you, allowed those things to store up, just like the landfills that we see all around our country and our world. And eventually they impact my today and they impact my tomorrows. But the longer I spend time in meditation, the more I spend time on my mat, I resolve that I don't want the garbage of yesterday to impact my today and my tomorrows anymore. It is a conscious, intentional choice every single day. I want the suffering and the trauma that I've experienced to begin to create a pathway for growth. Just like what I see in that compost bin every single day. And so as you are seated in your spot where you are, and I am in mine, I just want to pause. That is a lot, and I know that, but I want to just pause. And you just reflect on what the message is for you in this moment. Whether you've come through your dark suffering time or you're still in it, or all of us collectively, we know there are more times to come. But what if we can begin to see our spirit, our soul, as this place where this composting act could happen? And that the things that we are going through are not for our destruction. They truly are for our growth. Even if in the moment we can't quite see it. But someday, your metaphorical sunflower will begin to poke its head up out of the dirt and the muck, and you'll realize the bigger purpose. So I would invite you just to sit in your space. I will sit in mine. Let's just each breathe and be and see what comes across your mind across these next couple of moments. Just continue to sit for just a bit longer. Continue to notice your breath. Continue to notice whatever is coming across your mind. Suffering is part of life. Our yoga practice, our meditation practice do not make us immune to these things. And oftentimes the world would have us to believe that as suffering comes, we're supposed to just suffer through it. But what if we could wake up each day when we're in the middle of these times and we could just determine, we could just resolve for ourselves that we will accept this is where we are today, but we will not accept that this is where we will be when the tomorrows begin to come. It doesn't discount what the trauma and the suffering does and the impact that it has on our heart and on our emotions and who we are as humans. But we do have a choice of where we put the stuff that has already served its purpose. Do you allow it to fill up your metaphorical landfill within you until there's no room for anything else? Or do you allow it to find a place into this compost bin of our soul and our spirit, and you do the work and you show up to your practice until eventually you start to see some growth? And then I promise you someday you start to discover some joy. I would ask that you, as well as I, just trust the process. Just trust it. And see if it can change your perspective as you're walking through whatever you're walking through right now, or whatever the next thing is that we'll each walk through. Continue to breathe. And most importantly, continue to show up for yourself. Namaste.